This is Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions. Look, Cheryl just jumped on just as I hit the YouTube button. We are here live in our virtual meeting every Tuesday at 10 Arizona Sonoran time. We don't respect daylight savings. Sorry. We don't respect with respect. I'll say I'm sorry for not respecting daylight savings time. But thank you for joining us.
We won't either.
You won't either. Is that what happened?
Well, we changed in the spring, and we're staying there.
Wow. I heard there's a bill like that up in the Congress in the United States right now, too.
British Columbia and Alberta are staying. And so we will always be 11 o'clock when it's 10 o'clock in Arizona.
All right. Well, and that's 9 in Alaska, depending on where you are in daylight savings. Right now, it's 9. Well, welcome. This is the San Carlos Computer Club. I'm Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions. And as usual, I have passed out a document of possible topics that we might discuss today. But as usual, I am much more interested in any topics you folks might have brought with us. Richard is rejoining us. Did you get your mic working? Because it looks like you have the mic on, but we're not hearing anything come out of it. You might be stuck sending us text messages. It won't be the same. Okay. Well, I'm going to assume Richard can hear us, and he's trying to work out his microphone issues. But he's not muted. Everyone else is muted, except for me. And I'll shout out again, if you've brought a topic, let's bring it up right now and get it right at the top so we make sure we got it in. If you've brought any questions or tech news or suggestions with the Google tool. All right. Well, I don't know if you guys saw Richard's message there, but he's not going to fight with his microphone. Oh. Maybe he is. Who knows? He's gone. Maybe he'll come back. Fight with a Google tool. Richard is our advocate for open source. I am too. Yeah, I am. That operating system. Right at the top here, I stuck an AI topic that I thought you guys would find interesting. Good morning, Chester. We're just getting going. Thank you for joining us. Did you happen to bring any of your own topics that you wanted to bring up, or things you've resolved, or troubleshooting that you're trying to do?
Are you speaking to me?
I am. You're the most recent to join us. There's the 4 of us, and Richard's trying to find his way back in the meeting.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything this morning. Well,
if we have something to start off with, I thought what would be interesting is this article from Science Blog, where they've done a breakdown on the usage of water by ChatGPT, and they've been able to deduce it down to a 100-word email written by ChatGPT will consume approximately a volume of standard water, a bottle of water, volume of a standard bottle of water. Boy, I screwed up the punchline there, didn't I? You think about just that bottle of water you might buy in a Quick Stop or a 7-Eleven, and that's what it costs to write 100 words email if you let your AI agentic owl do it for you. They go deep into the analysis that comes up with that kind of number, and of course, their goal is to make it relatable, and so they've chosen that volume as something that we can. I think I've said before, now is the time, because all of this stuff isn't nebulous. It's right in front of us, so we can see results, and we know what it's caught. We know the resources that are going into it, and we know the marginal results we're getting out of it, and so it's a very perfect moment for doing regulation. Just setting a standard, setting a bar for results before allowing so many resources to be used. And so this goes deep into the amount of water that's used and what typically happens from the water, where the water is typically sourced, to come up with this number. I'm scrolling through this article. Normally I'm presenting that on the screen for you to look at, but this is not an article. I don't believe this is an article that's written by one person. I think this is an editorial piece of many pieces put together. Science blog, that is an interesting thing to think about. I wonder if that's something that should be kept in mind when you're using an AI these days. Is if something as simple as writing a 100-word email costs you a bottle of water, what are you doing with it? I don't know. I mean, no judgments. I use AI every day. Well, if that doesn't float your boat because there isn't enough water, there's did you guys see that Apple is suing OpenAI? I see Cheryl's finger is up. What's up?
Right now in our province, the wonderful province of Alberta, we have one data center approved. The ground has been cleared. It's ready to go in northern Alberta. And our premier is pushing for another one right by community, half an hour from us. Farmland, our farmers have had terrible time with the climate change, which seems to get ignored by our conservative government. And we've had drought, we've had flooding, we've had fires, we've had all these issues. And there's two things going on with our government right now. They are pushing for more pipelines because they want to extract even more oil. They seem to think that the more pipelines you have, the more oil you'll be able to produce and send. But there is a finite amount, and it doesn't seem to sink in. And so the other thing we have is natural gas, and that's what's going to be powering the data centers. And it's Meta is the one. I'm not sure what the other one is.
Wow.
And it's dividing our province and our people even more so than the people that are saying we should separate from Canada. So, it's just,
Well, I'm curious. What was the deal that was made to allow it come in? I mean, what are the benefits that your communities are reaping from the data centers being installed there?
Our government is reaping benefits. Our communities are not. The provincial government is. The local communities are extremely upset, and the native people are upset. The anybody that's concerned about water is pushing against it. But she's making these deals and then telling us it's done.
Yeah, that's I keep saying. I mean, this may be sad to say, but I think that data centers are inevitable. I think it's part of our technological growth, and we need to acknowledge and recognize that immediately as constituents and set the rules for why they're okay in our community. Yeah. And so when they're looking at land, we've already decided what land's okay to be looked at. When they're looking at power, we've already looked at what kind of power is okay to be looked at. And unfortunately, I think this is running roughshod over all of us in the same way tech has for the last 50 years. It's just waiting for regulation to catch up with it. It's moving as fast as it can so that regulation has to catch up with it instead of us just taking a second and going, hey, we recognize this is where we're going, but this is the way we're going to do it.
I think not enough planning and not enough information, not enough communication, not enough. Yes, these things are needed, but there's a lot of not in my backyard, and we need to figure out the best place for them, and without consultation with native, environmental, all of these different people, it's just
Well, I haven't seen any advocates for data centers bring this up, but I think dividends. I think we need to hear more of that right up front. When they're talking about bringing a data center in, they should be talking about cutting checks to individuals. And that should be one of their first talking points. I mean, I'm a big environmental advocate as well. So I want to hear clean air, clean water, self-sufficiency. I want to hear all that, but I don't think real people will pay attention until you say, we're going to cut you this amount, this percentage of earnings, or this amount, this fixed amount each year, or whatever it may be. They have a plan to pay the community for the obnoxiousness of having a data center in their area, taking up land that could be cultivated and being set aside for this purpose.
Okay, sort of related. I will tell you a story about what's going on in our province. Oil prices are very, very high. So we at the pump pay a very high price. Our government at the same time earns a lot of money because oil prices are high. So they, in the past, have given us 13 cents a liter credit on for the months of May through September. For those months, if the oil price is above a certain amount, they will take a tax relief off of at the pump price. This year, instead, they decided to let the market do the pricing and everything. And they're issuing $100 to every tax-paying person over the age of 18 that filed their taxes last year, and their combined household income is less than $250,000. So that qualifies a whole bunch of people that I know. But in order to get it, they have to a specific website, answer these questions, allow access to information, allow banking information to be shared, and all of these things that the seniors in my building are saying, no, keep your friggin' $100, and it's a real boondoggle. So offering money to people, sure, but if you're not going to allow them the ease of getting it and without compromising,
there's no reason it should be hard. Being hard it doesn't make sense. I mean, again, that's where I think Alaska really has the framework because of the permanent fund dividend. And I've said before, you get in a room with some Alaskans and you can argue back and forth the nuances of the permanent fund dividend, but there's a framework there for distributing money, and Alaska has a framework for leasing lands for oil. Seems to me you superimpose data centers instead of oil fields, and you've got the same kind of game. You know what the rules are, you know how things cost, you know how to distribute value from it. And you've got something to sell to the people, because right now they're just being told what's happening instead of the people having some bar to set against. I actually would hope that Alaskans out there that hear my ideas on this, because we've got so much land up here. And if you could create a data center that is self-sufficient, that doesn't impact the environment and cuts checks, that would be, we've got cold water, we've got cold weather, we've got plenty of land. It just seems like a natural fit for Alaska. Also, they wouldn't have to write too many checks because we don't have a big populace. Well, talking about AI and all that, one of the other articles I brought here, and you guys have probably already caught up with this news, Apple is suing OpenAI. If you've been watching this on the news, this is really funny because, they announced a big merger with them less than 6 months ago. They've integrated ChatGPT right into Siri. It's actually the reason that just recently so many Apple users are thinking Siri has gotten so much smarter, is because of their relationship with OpenAI, but also with Gemini. We can't forget that after having a deal with OpenAI, they've modified their deal with Google so that they pay $1 billion for access to Google's Gemini model. Of course, Google was paying them $1 billion to make them the default search on their equipment. So it kind of just merges away. It's just like, yeah, we'll do this for you and you do this for us, and that's covered. But they value it at $1 billion, enough so that they gave up the $1 billion they were getting for putting them as defaults, or at least that's the way I look at it. If you look at T accounts, that's the way I see. I see $1 billion in and $1 billion out, and everybody's happy. So that must be what they value Gemini at. OpenAI and ChatGPT have gotten popular on the Apple platform, and so much so that Apple has put hooks into their operating system. What Apple is alleging is that and this is true too, there's been 400 Apple employees that have moved over to OpenAI within that time period of them having this relationship. But they're really alleging them of some hardware theft, hardware development processes. Hey, Richard, you're with us again. Do you ever get your mic figured out? Maybe not. I guess not. All right. Well, we were just going through this article where Apple is suing OpenAI, and it would be interesting to hear your feedback. But they are, OpenAI has not been shy about making it clear. Well, all these AI companies have this idea of building hardware. And from what I've heard recently, I believe OpenAI bought Johnny Ives' hardware company. Hey, Richard, you're coming through now.
Can you hear?
I can hear you now. It's from a background microphone, like maybe you've got two microphones and your front microphone is not active. It's your back microphone.
Is this any better?
Yeah, very clear.
There you go.
How are you doing this morning?
Good.
You got any opinions on Apple suing OpenAI, or are you just leaning back chuckling?
Mostly leaning back, chuckling.
I think what
I wouldn't want to tangle with Apple's legal department. I think it's very, very clear that Apple has more firepower in that space than OpenAI can dream of.
Well, not to mention they have money coming in, and OpenAI is questionable their revenue flow.
Yeah, that too.
So lawyers do like to get paid.
Yes, they do.
Well, it'll be interesting to watch, and I'm amazed. I would think that this lawsuit would be more about software development, taking software developers. But this is about some almost espionage shit. This is Apple accuses OpenAI of training their future prospects in how to leave the company slowly, passively over like a 2-week period, where they're able to maintain access to proprietary property while they're transitioning out of Apple. So they wouldn't get escorted out the door, but they would gradually, soft quitting, I guess, would be what you would call it, so that they wouldn't lose their administrative access to this information.
The word you're looking for, Scott, is exfiltration. That they would be able to continue to exfiltrate proprietary Apple data for some period of time.
Yeah, that's absolutely what they're accusing them of.
The key card moment.
Yeah, it absolutely is like, if you're going to come work for us, don't tell Apple you're quitting yet. Get all your eggs lined up. Make sure you continue to have access until that day. And that's what Apple is accusing OpenAI. I mean, Apple's a mature company. This is immature stuff. Or OpenAI is literally this way. Cheryl, your hand's up.
I'm looking at another case The BC government, the British Columbia government, has hired legal counsel in Canada and California to sue OpenAI over the Tumbler Ridge mass shooting. This was a school shooting where the allegation is that the province claims OpenAI had the opportunity to prevent the loss of life, but failed to alert authorities to alarming prompts made by the perpetrator of the tragedy. And they've got two law companies. There's a law case in California and one in Canada. And the goal is the government is seeking damages to cover costs incurred from the tragedy, including financial support to build a new school to replace the one where the shooting occurred.
Wow. Well, that's a whole different direction with this conversation, because OpenAI is getting it on all sides at the moment.
Yeah. So
I
hiring, but also,
You know, Cheryl, maybe you could educate me a little about this, but can't the government go for punitive damages too, or is that limited in Canadian law?
I have no idea.
I mean, you see where I'm going with this, because punitive, you know, you cost whatever, you had to send out some SWAT teams, you know, that's toy money. But punitive can be any damn thing the court
yeah, it's a punishment.
Well, it does say that the province legal action follows prior separate lawsuits initiated by the victims' families, as well as a formal apology issued by OpenAI. Yeah. So there are different kind of legal proceedings. I'm not sure. I understand that there was money given to the families of some of the victims. Yeah.
How nice. Your kid's dead.
Here's some money.
Vacation,
Yeah.
You know, why don't you go on a cruise?
Mm-hmm.
You'll get over it.
Teachers, children. Yeah.
Which province was this?
British Columbia.
Yeah.
Tumbler Ridge is a very small community in northern, quite close to the Alaska Highway, beginning in Dawson Creek. But yeah, so,
I can imagine right where that is, actually.
yeah, February of this year. It was a school shooting is quite shocking to us.
Oh, I can imagine.
Doesn't happen as often as
you know what I'm realizing is so sad is that it happens so frequently in American culture. The fact that it happened in Canada just washed over me, and I've completely forgotten it.
Yeah.
We have courses that we run for Canadians, any non-American, where you're taught to just kind of get over it. You know what I mean? And we're good at this. That's why we teach the courses.
Yeah. Hey, going back to my article, damn it.
Sorry,
let's argue about some superficial stuff, like Apple is accusing them of stealing hardware processes, because everybody in this AI game right now has a plan to release a hardware product. The idea is that you would wear a pin or a pendant, glasses, a watch, or earbuds. AI would be in one of the, maybe a nose ring at some point. But the idea is that you've got you've got some piece of accessory that is adding AI to all your activities. And Apple is accusing OpenAI of stealing proprietary hardware building technology. And if I understand correctly, OpenAI bought Johnny Ive's hardware company. You know,
but that's a design firm, Scott. I heard you say that when so it's not exactly a hardware company. I mean,
no, absolutely. But you don't think that by having his design company and hardware secrets from Apple doesn't put them right in that same place Samsung was back when they were suing Samsung for stealing their designs?
Well, I think I've got paid in fictitious stock, which, you know, that whole thing was bizarre. I mean, they paid him billions, and you know, he's Johnny Ive. He hasn't done a damn thing for 20 years.
Well, they
And
announced an AI device and then immediately retracted it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, and then you're going to pay billions and billions of dollars for this. You know, it's like, yeah, but it's monopoly money.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's definitely the way I feel about it. It's all fictitious. They've got a goal. Well, as far as tech drama goes, this should be fun. Disclosure information. I think that's the thing I've learned the most about the current administration is how you better be careful if you want to sue somebody, because that gives them rights to know a bunch of information about you. And I bet disclosure.
Discovery.
Yeah,
is the word you're
discovery.
looking for.
Thank you.
Discovery, the dread discovery process.
Discovery is the term I was looking for. Thank you. Yeah, I think you should be concerned about not settling out of court. This was
I liked your vote thing. I heard you talking about that when I didn't have a microphone, and I was wondering, is the weighting of the way it's doing the calculation, I couldn't tell just looking at it, is that totally linear across?
Well, so the idea, and there are folks here that don't know what I'm talking about, because I sent it out to a handful of people, mostly Alaskans, but I also sent it to some tech people. I sent it to you because I knew your opinion would matter to me. But to catch you, Chester and Cheryl and Fred up, we've got a primary election coming up, and I've been having these conversations with mom and dad about ranked choice voting, and it occurred to me while we were talking that I didn't know how to take full advantage of it because I hadn't spent any time really researching any of the other candidates. I knew who I wanted to vote for, given my leanings and tendencies, but then when you go down the list, what would be best for me is to pick anyone that leans more towards my politics. And the heavier weighted, the better, until you get down to, well, I wouldn't vote for that guy if he was the last guy on earth. Seems to me to be the most efficient way to fill out a ranked choice voting ballot. And so using that kind of premise, I came up with this idea of being able to list the candidates and the core issues. And if you're following along on my screen now, what you're seeing is the list of the Senate candidates, followed by the House candidates, and then a number of core issues. And right now I've got everything set in neutral. And the idea would be that this is helping you build that list of who you should vote for. When you look down this list, you're seeing a percentage set for each of these candidates for how close their alineations are with what you've set in the sliders. Now, all the values and weights have been set by AI, so you take it with a grain of salt. The AI has access to public information up to date nowadays. It's not dated. And so my long-term goal with a tool like this would be to be able to hit a button that would regenerate the weights based on whatever the most recent public information that's been disclosed is out there. But the idea would be that you get a ranking based on how these candidates get a ranking based on how they have positioned themselves on any of these issues. And then you're able to slide your opinion on those issues and watch how these candidates fall in this list. So as you set the things that matter to you, then you are building a ranked choice voting list to go into the ballot box with some semblance of your value system imposed on the list. In a nutshell, that's what it. Everything else is just interface stuff. Yes, Chester.
Isn't Alaska the only state that does the rank voting? And you hear a lot of criticism of that process.
Yes, it's one of the first states to do it statewide for all elections. I believe it's all elections.
What are the criticisms of, because I haven't heard very many, Chester, what are the criticisms of ranked choice as a process?
I think the primary criticism is that you get an answer that nobody wants. In other words, it's not a winner take all. It is a I've never heard anything positive about it, but I have heard a lot of criticism, even though I can't recall the exact reason. But I think you get some answers that you didn't expect, and
yeah, that's absolutely true.
I mean, actually, that the majority would be dissatisfied with the outcome in some regard is almost a design goal.
Well, hold on. I think the majority would have to be satisfied, right? It's just not their first choice. Like, if the majority was settled, then the first choice would be the elected candidate. But the majority aren't settled. There is no majority. The majority is people undecided, because there isn't over 50% for one particular candidate. So the majority is lost. There's only minorities out there.
Well, I think the alternative is a second election,
Right.
Which is what most states have. They have a runoff election rather than what Alaska has, and I think most states prefer that approach, being more successful than the ranking approach. That's I'm just not aware of anyone that really supports the Alaskan approach.
Well, there's a lot of Alaskans that support it. And I could give you, I mean, this is a tech podcast or a tech meeting, so I really don't want to turn it into a political of ranked choice voting and the way that it forces candidates to play more moderate than out on the extremes. And it gives conservatives and liberals the chance to position other people as their primary candidate while still giving support for those tendencies, so they can vote their particular candidate. Well, you know, probably the quickest example I could give is like the Green Party. The Green Party never wins anything. In fact, you're spending most of your time, if you're a liberal candidate, hoping that they're going to vote for you instead of the Green candidate. But in a ranked choice voting that gets less than 50%, that Green vote isn't lost. They just their second choice gets recognized then. Their first choice is thrown out because their candidate was thrown out, and their second choice is now recognized and thrown into the voting. And so they're able to express themselves and the way they feel with a range that encourages politicians to play up the range more than the extremes. So we end up with less extreme candidates. if that makes sense. You always want to be the number one choice if you're a candidate. But if you're not going to be number one, then you're hoping you're going to be number two.
To go back to the tech aspect for a moment, I sent you that note. Did you see what I was saying?
I didn't quite understand what was that, because each one of these is.
Here's what it is, and I don't have it open in front of me, but what's the first one on your screen right there?
This one right here, the Cook Inlet gas subsidy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It doesn't really matter. So we're talking about and we have a range from
disagree to agree with neutral in the middle.
Yeah, correct. Okay. But I should have a second slider for that same question, which is, how much do I care about that question?
Because you don't think neutral just covers that? Like if you
not really.
Because this is a weighted disagree, like how much you disagree.
Yeah, but you're talking about agreement, and I'm talking about how important it is to me. So for that, I would have to move two sliders. One would be to what degree I agreed with the point, which is what you have, but I would have a second slider, which would be how important is that issue?
I appreciate what you're saying. These issues, and again, this was all with the help of AI. The AI picked these issues because these are the issues people are running on. So,
but again, I could very strongly agree with something, but the
don't care.
Subject was relatively unimportant to me.
Okay. I don't know, Richard. I don't see the distinction. I think
it's no, because all issues are not equal.
Like I could completely agree with this, but not care whether it matters. Is that what you're saying?
The way I think to have the two variables more closely mirrors the way people actually vote, because we have all voted for people that we strongly disagreed with on one or more subjects, but we agreed with them on some other. I mean, this is the definition of a single issue voter, that we agreed with them on some other issue that was vastly more important to me, to the voter than all of the other things that we disagreed. That is the definition of a single issue voter.
But isn't that essentially what you're trying to do here? I mean, like here is strongly disagree with somebody here. Yeah,
this isn't about agreement. It's about the importance of the issue to the voter. There are two things. Do you agree with it or not disagree with it? But that is a separate.
Okay. I think I'm getting issues that would allow a voter to express how important it is. So what you'd be doing is you in this app, what you'd be doing is expressing a lower weight regardless of how you feel. Like you could disagree, but you really don't. It's not really that. It's not a voting issue, right? And
I completely disagree with this candidate on that issue, but you know what? I don't really care.
Well, and keep in mind, this is not candidate per candidate. This is enlightening you to the ranking of the candidates on these issues. So you're not setting these for a particular candidate. You're setting your issues, how you feel about your issues, and this is the way it ranks up the candidates.
Right. Now, is this manually configurable? I mean, you're saying the AI picked these subjects. Can you, the author of it, alter that?
Yeah, well, I can ask for it to do it again. I can ask it to. That's what in the long term. That's what I would do. Is I'd have a button that just refreshes the weighting, and what it does is it has a prompt that goes out and asks for the core issues in this election using all the public information out there, and it comes back with a list of those issues. And then with the candidates, it's a similar kind of prompt that asks for all the candidates and then asks for them to be weighted against these issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so the candidates should be able to.
It's really interesting, Scott. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely, if anything, and it looks like our call's going to end in about 11 minutes. I'll open up the other meeting in just a moment. I see Chester's hand up for just a moment. But if anything, it is a great example. I would not have this to show you 2 days later if it hadn't been for AI.
Sure.
Right? There's just no way I would have been able to put something like this together without the assistance of AI.
For sure.
And I can imagine that, take it with a grain of salt, but I think that if enough Alaskans looked at it, played with it, and felt like the weighting was working correctly, that you would use something like this to generate your list before you go to the ballot box.
Oh, people are limitlessly lazy. Absolutely.
Well, Chester, you had your hand up for a moment there. Was that intentional?
I think the thinking about the subject, and that is to what extent does AI have bias? Example that I'm trying to give is your interpretation of green versus my interpretation of national debt, and the importance to me of those two subjects may depend on what you know about the subject, and to what extent is AI biased in that regard.
Well,
so I just don't trust the whole thing.
Yeah, I hear you, Chester. I think we're at a moment now where we have to assume that the AI mechanism has been trained on the entirety of information that's publicly available. And then the information it's processing whatever information is out there public. It's two different pieces. One is the making of the brain. The brain was made by all the information the AI company could get a hold of. And that's what each one of these models is it's like a brain. And then that brain has access to whatever's publicly available. I think that...
But I think Chester's point's 100% valid, because they're internal weights that it's applying, which effectively, almost by definition, are bias.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is like I said green. I never said anything leaning in one direction or the other when prompting, because the AI was supposed to give it to me. So what it's giving me is its interpretation of all the information it has access to.
Correct. But that is the definition of bias. It's interpretation.
Well, and the interpretation is however that model is behaving, whichever model is being used at that time. It's not wrong to think that if I were to plug this into ChatGPT versus Gemini, we might get some different interpretations because they're different models trained. What's that?
Could you do that?
Not quickly and easily. I'm not that kind of developer. Okay. I'm sure in the end I could, but right now I'm not able to do that quick and easy.
You know where I'm going with this. That would be absolutely fascinating to try to create the exact same tool using two different base models,
or at least be able to switch.
Because you can work on the assumption, to go back to what your knowledge base is. You can work on the assumption that the very major players, so let's just say OpenAI and Anthropic, they're working from the same data set, because the data set is every damn thing that's ever been put on the internet, and they both have it.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you know?
But
What
they
do what do
train
you?
they train different models. And right now, I all this stuff that I do it off the free models.
Mhm.
And so what would be interesting is if there was a spigot that you could change. So that like you could say use Chat GPT or use Anthropic
Yeah.
or use and it's all the same interface and you watch and see if the weights change.
Oh, I would bet dollars to donuts that the weights would change. I think the only question would be how large the changes were and if they were in an identifiable direction. You know what I'm saying? Or did this appear to be random?
Well, and then there's this like how off is really off when you're working with something like this is obviously a cheat sheet for people that don't know much about the other options. And so how far off from actuality is okay? How much margin of error is okay and you still end up with a good list as far as you would be concerned?
Well, it is definitely closer to the voters' direct intent versus what people actually do, which is you've got all is particularly in big cities and counties, and you've got like a bajillion down ballot, really a bajillion down ballot choices, and you don't have any ideas. So what can you do? You can vote straight party line, if you're of that mindset, or alternatively, you can go to it used to be newspapers, now it's online resources, but basically you could go to some place where you said, I align with this place, and they will give you a list. They'll give you a cheat sheet
Right.
of
Yeah, no, you're absolutely
of
right. Yeah.
the third assistant dog catcher in
They've
which
got,
of these two
you're
guys.
absolutely right. I didn't even think about it like that. But any one of these organizations that you feel strongly about, or they feel strongly politically, they're going to have a cheat sheet ready, aren't they? If you're one of their members, it's probably easily available.
Oh, you don't have to be a member.
Yeah.
They'll tell you according to their lights who should be the third assistant dog catcher in the
Mm.
western part of the county. They have an opinion. They don't skip races.
Well, I suspect this model that I've been working on, and what I'm trying to right now, all this is hard coded into one HTML file. I'm trying to break it up so that it's easy to change issues or to have the issues update, easy to update the representatives, so that if somebody drops out,
Output this. This is HTML5. You're telling me.
yeah, this is all HTML5 and CSS and JavaScript all in one HTML file.
That's two. That's two out of the three that I don't understand.
Again, I couldn't have pulled this off without AI assistance. Than I could have done by myself.
It looks kind of pretty. I
Yeah.
like the black motif, and the palette.
Yeah. What I do know though is it's half the representatives. I've learned that. For Senate, we've got 16 people in the full list. But I got caught up in breaking it up so that it would be easy to work on different modules of the project.
That's weird. Have you queried it yet and said, what about fill in the blank?
Yeah.
What about this guy? What about this gal?
Yeah. I just haven't published the new changes.
What did it say? Oops.
Oh, no, I didn't ask it directly. I just said, hey, there's 16 people in this list. And it said, oh, you're right. And I pointed it to a website.
Oh, so it said oops.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that is what they, because I pointed it to a website, say, well, correlate with this website. And they're like, oh, you're right. There is 8 other candidates in this race.
Oh, doesn't that speak volumes, Mr. Simpson? Honest to God. I mean, honest to God, man. Jesus. I can't wait for this thing to blow up.
Well, stepping away from AI for a moment, I do have another article. How much time do we have in this meet? Maybe I'd open the other meet. Looks like
2
this is going to
minutes.
crash. Let me open up the other meet.
Ms. Hall's found better things to do. She's doing something productive while I yammer. I understand, Cheryl.
Paying bills.
Well, that's important.
Well,
All right, I'm ready to accept any people that are moving over to the other meet. And I am sitting on our next article, which I just thought was interesting and somewhat a little disconcerting. Apparently there are reports of kids shooting water guns. They're not really water guns; they're water BBs. They're a popular toy. There's Chester. I think you guys are about to get disconnected. Your call ends in under a minute. And Chester is the only one here with me so far. There's Cheryl. Oh, and the other meet just closed. We got Fred and Richard joining us now. Well, I hope my dad can follow us. Somebody is generating noise. Like,
Oh, sorry, there's fan blowing.
oh, yep, that was it.
not cool enough for the Canadians.
We're experiencing Mexico winter weather. We got to 31 degrees Celsius the other day, which was a little bit much, but
Wow. Pretty warm.
high 20s.
Those numbers are so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. We aim for between 20 and 25 degrees 12 months of the year. So
It's pure soup here.
And it's colder than normal here. The last 2 summers in Alaska have been much colder than what we consider normal summer weather.
Please?
well, we've been Tornado Valley. We're becoming for example, we've had 26 tornadoes, and that's usually what we would have in all of the season, and we've just begun. So we're having crazy dry weathers, and then really severe thunder and tornado type storms. So.
Well,
But on the other hand, the world hasn't been plagued, or at least the United States and Canada have not been plagued with hurricanes this last year or two. And so there are some pluses in the weather as well as minuses.
Does that have something to do with the oceans warming up? Is that less hurricanes? I'm not sure.
I thought it was supposed to be more hurricanes.
We have an excess, a very large El Nino, which means the Pacific and the equator is very hot and unusually hot, even for an El Nino. So that's going to result in some very major weather throughout the world.
In answer to your question, Cheryl, ordinarily higher ocean temperatures correlate with more powerful storms because heat is energy, and more heat, warmer temperatures are more, and that's a more energetic state, and that energy gets transferred into the storm. So in theory, warmer ocean temperatures should generate more powerful storms.
All right. Back from the Weather Channel. We're doing tech, and this other article was just a funny one, or maybe not. Police detained 2 teens after a joyride in a Waymo in Northern California. What is interesting about this is these kids, they're like 15 years old, apparently were drinking underage in the back of a Waymo with the window down, shooting off water BB guns, water pellet guns. And these are a popular toy where they're almost like sponges. They're like rubber sponges that hold, you soak them in water, and then they're your bullets, and that's what's getting shot at people. They were reported to the police, and the police coordinated with Waymo to pull them over. So the Waymo pulled over to the side of the road and sat there and waited for the police to come get the 2 boys. I don't know if you guys had heard this story or not, but they did specifically say they did not lock them in the car, which is the first thought I had when I read the story was, wait, did they actually stop the boys from leaving the car? But it does sound like they coordinated with police so that the car was stopping in time to be pulled over.
Well, it would seem like you could basically reroute the destination to be the
police station,
the police car. I mean, just
That's a great point. Yeah. You could have the Waymo just essentially is meeting up with the police car.
Some black and white police car.
Right. like meeting up with a food truck. You're meeting up with the police car. Chester, your hand's up.
Yeah, another Waymo type issue that's emerged is the inability of these vehicles to respond to emergency vehicles. Because you mentioned that they got connected with the company in order to control the automobile. Well, that same issue comes into play when you have an ambulance or you have a fire department that crosses paths with one of these automated vehicles, and they're trying to find solutions to it.
Well, along with that, I mean, it's a bunch of this leftover. Richard's heard me talk about it for years. I feel like we've lived in a good enough kind of mentality towards technology for a long time. I feel like most of the tech we gets like 85 to 95% of the way there. Not quite perfect, but good enough. And that's what we end up using as consumers. And on this theme, you're saying they're having problems with emergency vehicles. That's very true. These kinds of behaviors with Waymos, you saw, we talked about a couple weeks ago where they've shut down highway transit for Waymos in the major cities. Like Phoenix is one of them. It's one of the reasons it's on my radar, but it's also in places like Dallas and LA, places where highway travel is a norm for commuting. The Waymos have been taken off those roads. For what reasons is not very clear, but they started with a small group of them, and then they took them off of every major city. So there's something...
Well, I think I can explain that.
Go ahead, Chester.
Living here in Phoenix, you get on one of the interstates, you're going to have to do between 75 and 80 miles an hour in a 65 mile an hour zone. And if you have a Waymo doing 65 and staying in the law, and everybody else is doing 80, you got a problem.
Yeah.
I think that this also, though, illustrates kind of we're hitting the limitations of good enough because, okay, so we're finding out that good enough isn't good enough when you have an application like driving a vehicle.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, I really encourage it, and I'm sorry for some of my language in my original reaction. But, you know, if you had an assistant, Scott, and you said, I want to design this graphical user interface for this ranked choice voting app. So give me a list of who's running for such and such an office, and they missed half of them. What would you think?
Right, right.
I would think, collect your paycheck, interesting knowing you, talk to you later. Right, you know, I mean, come on, man. But in this space, I'm supposed to say, oh, you know, look at what it did. The jingling keys. Look how fascinating they are.
Well, that's in AI, in network security. We're learning. Actually, AI is just ushering in this moment of how bad security is. That was just good enough before, and now we have a computer looking at it, and it's discovering all these holes in it. But we thought it was good enough. We've got all the. Oh, I'm sorry. Just tickling the back of my brain is another thing that I was just learning about with USB chips that apparently are programmable.
Really?
But yeah, we'll have to talk. I'll have to get back to that. We'll have to talk about that in another meeting. Because there was a it's at a fundamental level. It's in the firmware, and it can be accessed from just regular code. So it is actually a big deal, but I don't have all the information in front of me. But it's another example of good enough. It is coming back to me as we talk, and my brain won't leave it alone. It is an open source library that's been used for FAT. So look at this, it's just flowing back into my brain now. It's for XFAT, FAT32 access. It's an open source library from Linux that's used in all kinds at the firmware level that they found a flaw in. At the hardware level, that's as much as I can pull out of my brain at the moment. But again, it's one more example of good enough. It's worked. It's worked this whole time. It has not been an issue. People have spread this work over thousands of projects and are actively out there using this to read data off of SD cards and USB sticks for security cameras and set-top boxes. And it's just out there. And an AI came along and found a major security hole in it. And if you know much about what I'm describing, you know those devices aren't going to get the updates they need to protect themselves from that kind of, because they were never built to be those kinds of devices. They were never built to constantly being updated to whatever the latest security threat is. In the case of good enough, this was good enough security until a computer's looking at it instead of a human. And the computer's able to point out flaws that have been there the whole time that humans just did not figure out how to exploit. It took a computer to figure out how to exploit it. Good enough is not good enough anymore, and it could be because of AI. I know that the security world is feeling that way after Fable, after Mythos and Fable coming out. I don't know if you guys are paying attention, but we've had just slews of software updates coming out for Windows, Macintosh, iOS. And you just know it's because they've got an AI that they're running through all their previous code, looking for anything it can find. No, it can't perfectly secure that particular code, but you can see this iterate, using a machine to capture problems, that these systems are getting tighter and tighter and tighter. In security terms, that's a good thing. As far as user experience, we'll see what happens with that. I think did I bring another article before we... Oh, I brought this last week. I don't know if we had actually given it any real attention last week, but you're aware that WhatsApp has started using usernames. So you are able to transition your WhatsApp telephone number to a WhatsApp username in the goal of more privacy, so that you don't have to share your phone number with your with people out there. You know, the you don't have to share. It doesn't have to be discoverable by phone number. That's what it comes down to. Is it can be discoverable by username. This has already been implemented. You can look for this in your WhatsApp settings. You can reserve, if you're not already able to use a username, you can reserve a username.
You know, I just have to state for the record that this puts them on par with what Signal did from its inception.
Well,
You never had to share, you have to share your phone number with Signal, but by default, you do not share it with the universe, and you're not discoverable in that way.
well, I believe those are best practices as you're describing them, but I also believe that's the veneer that Facebook is putting on WhatsApp to get you into this change. I went ahead and reserved my username, and you know what it did is it immediately locked me into. I got out of it afterwards, but I could not reserve my username without associating it with Meta's account center. Isn't that interesting?
Christ.
And in the documentation, it says, "Oh,
Why
you
do
can."
people put up with this stuff? Well,
It's insidious. It is insidious. You know exactly what that means. It means that any data that they can suck out of WhatsApp, be it marginal at the moment, is immediately associated with all the other accounts you have in your account center. We've already got
Just to say it's marginal.
Well,
disparage the data that they could suck out of WhatsApp.
Well, okay, all right. The idea being that they couldn't get very much, but you're right. Every one of these changes makes it easier and easier for them to suck information out of WhatsApp.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just insidious the way that every time they add a feature, it's not for security. It's not for your experience. It's for them to get their hooks a little bit more into your application so that they know what your data is, what you're doing. And it's because we're a data broker country right now. That is the main way they make money is selling data. Anyway, I had this experience. My WhatsApp, because of the username that I picked, it saw it in. I guess you know where this is going. But what surprised me was that I didn't know what the Meta account center was until this. It's like this is revealing the Meta account. Now, I'd had this experience when I signed up with Instagram many years ago, where I just turned it on with my Facebook account. I didn't give it any more of a thought than, are you going to use Google to sign in for this? Are you going to use Facebook to sign in for this? This is what I did back in that day. Are you've got a Facebook account and now you're going into Instagram? Are you going to use your Facebook account with? And I just said yes. And then later I was able to create various Instagram accounts off of that one account. All of them are linked. Meta obviously knows that I'm in control of all those, has no association with my WhatsApp account. WhatsApp has been trying to get me to attach a Facebook account to it. I haven't done it. Through this reservation, it all of a sudden knows what my WhatsApp account is associated with these other accounts. And I have since then removed it from the account center because I see absolutely no benefit in WhatsApp participating in Meta's account center. But now that, you know, that data has been collected, they know that I'm associated with those Instagram accounts, those Facebook accounts, and this WhatsApp.
Well, and there was a different Meta story also from last week. And they announced on Tuesday of last week, so a week ago today, Meta announced that they were going to allow people to use anything that appeared on Facebook or Instagram by anybody to use their goddamn garbage AI image manipulation tool.
Are you saying they invited anybody to use the image manipulation tool?
Correct. And use any image that appeared on Facebook or Instagram from anybody's account. And they got such a bad reaction that they rescinded it on Saturday morning. That whole goddamn story went from Tuesday till Saturday morning because all the famous people on Instagram, you know, like the Screen Actors Guild and individuals and whatever, said, no, wait a minute. You're inviting the universe to steal all of my images?
Right.
Seamlessly within your platform? That's who these people are.
Well, and they're bumping around the marketplace like they don't know how they're supposed to make money. They just have lots of money. It's ridiculous. I was listening to some financial people talking about these companies the other day on a podcast, and it's so they have all these huge revenues, and it's not very clear how they even make money. They keep reporting these big gains, but then they have it's not very clear their business path. I don't know. We're reaching the end of this meeting and my head is almost broken. I just wanted to reiterate Malwarebytes' attitude towards this username. It says here, our advice: hiding your phone number is a genuine privacy improvement, but if you reuse the same username across Meta's apps, you could make it easier for both Meta and other people to connect those accounts. This is exactly the experience that I had because I use the same username in various places, that it all of a sudden just webs together everything that I do under one identifier. The safest move is to choose a unique WhatsApp.
Well, and also to understand what just happened here, it's not that Meta has that data. I mean, it is that Meta has that data, but it's that Meta is now actively reselling that data because that is one of their fundamental sources of revenue.
Yeah. Well, that's always been one of their.
That data is probably with 20 companies now, or 200 companies now, 200 databases.
I would say that you could go to a data broker and look up for a price my WhatsApp phone number.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we have no restrictions on data brokers, which is what we need. We need the Bill of Digital Rights. We need restrictions on data brokers. We need consumer protections. I've promised myself to always call them consumer protections that make it illegal for them to make businesses out of our data.
Yes.
So Malwarebytes says if you're going to use a username that is more secure, but please pick one that's unique to WhatsApp and will not identify you on other platforms. And then they have some security settings here. You can read it in the article from the document we sent out. We are at an hour 15, and so I'm thinking this is probably a good time to wind down this meeting, but in typical parlance, we do recommendations at the end of our meetings, and so I'm ready to hear anybody's recommendation, and I will stick it on our document that I'm not sharing. I'll share it with your view right now.
Very, very hard to find film.
Okay.
That somebody turned me on to called Japan Story.
Japan story.
It is, I think, 2003. It stars Tony Collette and a Japanese guy. And it's set in Australia, and it is one of the best films I've seen in a very long time. Do
Japan
not read a plot synopsis. No, I'm serious. I'm serious because it.
I'm gonna let the AI tell me what it's about.
I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. Man.
Where is it available to watch? That's the question. Just watch.
You know, I was trying to turn a friend on in Australia who has a zillion different subscriptions, and even he was having problems.
In the United States, it's available on Tubi, free with ads.
You absolutely do not want a single ad in this film.
Then you're renting it. Available on Canopy. I've never used that. Hoopla, I don't use that.
It's just a really beautiful story.
I wonder if in Canada or Mexico, they don't have Mexico listing on Just Watch, but they've got a Canada, free with ads on Tubi, Hoopla. It's available on Apple TV to rent. It's available on Prime Video to rent. Japanese story. All right. So there's one. Anybody else have a recommendation? I don't know if I showed up with one today.
So was that called Japan Story or Call Japan?
It's Japan's story. Is it Japanese or Japan, Scott? I can't see that. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I just had it in front of me, and it's Japanese story.
Japanese story. Thank you. Really beautiful film show.
2003. Yeah, Australian. That's the one.
She's absolutely luminous in this film. And the Japanese guy, you know, I did that book on World War II in the Pacific, and I went to Japan a few times. And this is as good a depiction as I have ever seen of the communication and miscommunication between Japanese and non-Japanese.
Stop the bus. Did you just say you did that book as in you wrote a book on World War II?
Photographs.
Oh,
It's called War of Our Fathers.
Hey, you know, we should plug your website right here.
I was
What's
just
my
gonna
website,
say-
man? warofourfathers.org. I say it loud, I say it proud.
Okay, because
War
this is the first
of
time I've
Our
heard of it, so we need it in our
Fathers.
list.
I did it in my youth, Cheryl, and that was directly after the Civil War, the American Civil War. I shot the book in the 1860s. You know what I mean? .org.
Here
I
it is.
got it down.
There it is.
That was warofourfathers.com or .org?
.org. And I'm gonna add it to our recommendations, like an evergreen on our recommendations list
That
here.
was interesting seeing it so tiny. I feel validated in my use of large graphic elements. I could actually see what the hell was going on.
Adios.
All right, Chester, we'll see you next week, buddy.
Adios, Mr. Stone.
I wasn't able to watch very much this week because every day I had 3 hours of chuck wagon races and the relay races by our Native Americans at the Calgary Stampede. That is the most amazing. If you're a horse lover or a horse racer, watcher, or whatever, these natives, they have a team and they have 3 horses, and instead of passing the baton, the rider jumps off of one at full run and jumps onto another horse bareback all the way around the track, and it is the most fun 3 minutes you've ever seen, and
Wow.
amazing sportsmanship. And they crowned one for all the money at the Calgary Stampede. 10 days of stampeding just ended, so everybody can put their hats away and boots away for another year.
How far do you have to travel to, get? This is an arena. These are arena events, right?
The Calgary Stampede is in Calgary, and the Stampede grounds have the hockey arena. They have a year-long race track. They have large display buildings and stuff, and the grandstand and the barns and all that. They're
Is
used.
that where the Grand Prix of Canada is held?
The Grand Prix? No, the Grand Prix is usually in Toronto and in the East. We haven't had one in the West. But the Canadian is the greatest outdoor show on earth. It's been dubbed. So some people go for the rodeo. Myself, my family has gone to the art shows, to the stage shows. There's always a lumberjack show. There's the agility dogs. There's just every fair that you could ever think of. Great, big, huge, midway. 10 days, you could go every day and see something different.
And you have to stay is this far enough that you have to stay in a hotel, or
we moved south of Calgary, where to the Stampede grounds we would probably take LRT and things like that. It would take us 35 minutes from home.
That's train?
Yeah, we would drive into the south end of Calgary, which is 20 minutes, and then hop on the C train. It's called.
That's civilized.
Yeah. Our new family, our new doctors, our new hospitals, and all that kind of stuff are in Calgary. So.
Okay.
Yeah, we moved to a town south of there. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. We're
Light
closer to the
rail is
border.
really nice. Light rail is really nice. I've lived in some places that had light rail, and that's a huge amenity.
This YouTube video says you had 1.4 million people visit it.
Yep. I don't think we broke the record, but we had a good. That guy that was just on, he's the CEO of the Calgary Stampede.
Oh.
And one of the days during Stampede, they had Canadian citizens become Canadian citizens, and him and his wife did that with a whole bunch of different people. So they held a ceremony on the grounds for new Canadians.
Canadians.
Like I say, something happens, all the time.
Here we're going to get to see some crazy bronco busting kind of thing going on.
Yeah. I love the chucks. I watch the chuck wagons every night. Oh, unfortunately, they're showing you a picture of the one horse that they lost this year. So.
Oh, you guys had a horse?
Yeah, He got kind of tied up in some reins, and they took him off, and he didn't make it.
We can't say no animals were hurt during the production of this because there were.
They can, but boy, they do a lot for them. Like there used to be 4 chuck wagons with 4 outriders. Now they've reduced it. There's only 3 and only 2 outriders, and they've changed a lot of different things to keep the safety. They check every horse. The vets do all kinds of tests on them before they're on the track. And, yeah. These are thoroughbreds that are past their racing days. So they take them and make them wagon horses.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they still have use.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we've reached the end. I've got nothing more. If you guys have nothing more, we could call this to an end. Until next Tuesday, everyone tech on.
Okay.
Okay.
Take
Have
care.
a good week.
You too, Fred. See you guys. Good morning. Well, that was our meeting for Tuesday, July 14th. You guys enjoyed that? Then check out our website at scclub.org. And if you're looking for computer help, get a hold of me, Scott at internationalcs.net. Thank you for participating and tech on.